We're mourning the destruction of the Beis HaMikdash, what we call the Chorban. Chorban means destruction. But the truth is that there are different ways of destroying something. One way is you could take dynamite, you could put it at the bottom of a building, blow it up, and the whole thing comes tumbling down, pieces everywhere, all over the place. You would never even know what stood there beforehand. Another way of destroying something is you take a chair, you cut off the seat, and now this chair is destroyed. Can't use it, it's not functional. But you have the seat over here, you have the frame over here, all the pieces are there in full, but it's destroyed. The word Chorban is spelled Chet Vav Reish Beis Nun. And the root of that word is Chet Reish Bet. Chet Reish Bet also spells Cherev, a sword. When a sword destroys something, it severs it. It slices it into pieces, into half. Slice it into half, it's destroyed. It's that second way of destroying. It doesn't blow it up into little pieces, it breaks it into parts. And that's what Churban really is. The Beis HaMikdash wasn't demolished. It was just taken apart. It was severed. Now you might be thinking that that's completely not true because the building right here across the street was demolished. It wasn't taken apart piece by piece. We don't have the pieces. So what does it mean that it was just taken apart like a chair? So the answer to this really sheds light on what we are mourning. We're not really mourning that building, that gorgeous, beautiful, magnificent, luxurious building that everyone in the world just wanted to see, that it's no longer here. That's not what we're mourning. The Gemara says in Maseches Sanhedrin, on the Tzadi Vav Beis 96b, prior to the destruction of the first Beis HaMikdash, Nebuzaradan was the general of Nebuchadnezzar's army, the Babylonian army. And it says that Nebuchadnezzar sent Nebuzaradan 300 mule loads of iron axes that could prevail over iron. Tons and tons and tons of hammers, axes, that they could go ahead and they could destroy the walls, destroy the Beis HaMikdash. The Gemara says, Kulu balasinu chadash Yerushalayim. But just one gate of Yerushalayim swallowed them all up. Every time Nebuzaradan tried to bang at the wall, the hammer, the axe fell apart. It had no effect. Bailam Mahadir, so Nebuzaradan said, forget it, I'm out of here. This is obviously a message that this isn't going to happen. I had everything I needed to destroy it, and it's not working. I'm afraid that Hashem, God of the Jews, is going to do what he did to Sancheriv. He destroyed the whole army, not allowing him to go in and destroy. But then a heavenly voice came out and said, Nebuzaradan, go in. For the time has come for the temple to be destroyed, and for the Heichal, the sanctuary, to be burned. Pashu leichad narga, Nebuzaradan had one single axe left over. All of the 300 loads, wagon loads, was gone. There was one left. Asa machi bekupa ve'iftach. He went and struck the gate with the axe's end, not even the metal part at the head. Some of the Rishonim learned it was the wooden handle. He took the weakest part of the axe to bang it. He wanted to see if some supernatural occurrence would allow him to enter. And it worked. Meaning, he didn't come and destroy with power. He didn't come and destroy with force. He used the back of a hammer. And that was showing, Hashem was showing that the whole thing's already gone. There is no significance to the temple now. What does that mean? When it came to the second Beis HaMikdash, the same thing happened. The Gemara says that when Titus, the general of the Roman army, when he came in, the Gemara says in Gittin, and after Gimel Amud Aleph, 53a, Kimcha tachna tachan. He ground already milled flour. The whole thing was already in sand, and he just grounded it up a little bit more. What do you mean? The whole thing was standing in its glory. So the Nefesh HaChaim explains, Rav Chaim Volozhiner explains, that every single thing in this world has an existence in the higher world, in the spiritual world. And the temple, the Beis HaMikdash above, was already gone. It was already destroyed. And therefore, down here was nothing. It was sticks, stones, a little bit of gold and silver, but there was no significance to the temple. And therefore, what Titus did was really nothing. Nothing of any significance. Because even though the physical, glorious, magnificent temple was standing, it had no significance. It had no holiness. Everything was sucked out of it. The spiritual temple above was already destroyed. We're not mourning the demolishing of the physical temple. What we're mourning is the destruction, the taken apart of the temple above, of the spiritual temple. Churban means that there's separation, there's disconnect. The first Beis HaMikdash was destroyed because of three sins: Gilui Arayos, adultery, avodah zarah, idolatry, shvichas damim, murder. The Maral and the Gra explain that each one represents a certain aspect of relationships. Avodah zarah, idolatry, is the relationship between us and God, bein adam lemakom. Shvichas damim, murder, of course, is bein adam lechavero, between us and man. And Gilui Arayos, adultery, is between bein adam la'atzmo, between man and himself. If a person just wants to be selfish and grow and grow and grow in high levels, even if he's just selfish, adultery ruins all of that. It sucks out all of the holiness, a kedusha, that a person could obtain. We're disconnected. Disconnected from God, we were disconnected from others, we were disconnected from ourselves. And when you have disconnect, so then the temple above is disconnected, is separated, is no longer standing in place. Of course, the second temple was destroyed because sinas chinam, baseless hatred. What greater disconnect from other people? So when we're not connected, we don't really attach ourselves to what's real and what's right, so then the Beis HaMikdash can't exist. And therefore, what we're mourning is that disconnection. And some of us, maybe even all of us, don't even realize to some level what we're disconnected from. In the times of the Inquisition, they wanted to try to figure out who was practicing Judaism, who was hiding and being Jewish in secret. So how do they find out? The people did it in their homes. How are you going to figure it out? So they'd go around to home, and they'd start questioning the maid, the housekeeper, the lady that was helping, or the servant that was helping, the man that was helping in the house. They started asking them all these questions. So if the servant said, my my master, he's on a very strict diet. This week, there was no bread in the house. So they knew that he was keeping Pesach. He didn't want to eat chametz. If the man or the servant said, my master likes a lot of salt, and he asks me to put tons of salt on the meat before I cook it. So they knew that he was careful with the laws of kashrut, where you have to salt the meat to make it kosher. And then there was a third way. If the servant would say that my master tells me to sweep, when I sweep the floor, when I clean the floors, when he tells me, don't sweep towards the door, the front door, don't sweep towards the front door, then they knew that he was observing Judaism. What? Nothing wrong with sweeping to the door. What was that about? Because in those days, everyone was careful that they shouldn't sweep the garbage next to the mezuzah. They realized the mezuzah is such a holy thing. The name of Hashem in it, Shema, protects us. How can you sweep the garbage towards the mezuzah? And that's what everyone did, and therefore they knew that this person must have been Jewish. Some of us can't even relate to such a thing. That specifically we put our garbage bag. We don't want it to be in the house, so we leave it outside, right by the mezuzah, so that when someone goes downstairs, goes outside, he'll take the sack and throw it out. The mezuzah has become the second thing that you hit after the doorbell. It's not, do we ever even think about it? Do we even think what's in there, what it's about, the holiness in it? We're disconnected. We're disconnected from basic values that always existed. There was once a rabbi who got up and he spoke. He had counseled several couples about shalom bayis, about how to have marital harmony. And he got up and he said the following story. He said, a couple came to him and they said, that's it, we're done. We want to get divorced. We're finished. And the rabbi asked, when did this begin? When did your problems begin? And the man said, right away, after our chuppah, the night of our wedding, we went from our chuppah into our yichud room, into the room the first time that the bride and groom are together alone, the first time in their lives, very special moment. Right there and then, all our problems started. Which is really what happened. Said we were sitting there, and all of a sudden I hear a telephone ring. And I realized my wife, my newlywed wife, she brought her cell phone into the yichud room. I couldn't believe it. Here it's supposed to be private, holy, special, once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. And she brings her cell phone there. And not only that, but she answered the phone. Rabbi, can you believe it? She answered the phone in the yichud room. The rabbi turned to the wife and said, is this true? And she didn't deny it. Yeah, it's true. He said, look, my best friend just yesterday broke her leg. She couldn't come to the wedding. And she wanted to wish me mazel tov. And I saw that it was her. How can I not pick up the phone? So the husband said, you see, she doesn't even deny it. She's so disconnected from what's important, and she doesn't even deny it. And that was the beginning of all our problems. So the rabbi said, I'll tell you the truth. And he got up to the people that he was speaking to. He said, the story never really happened, but it happens to many people on a daily basis. The person comes to shul, and he's davening to Hashem. And he's basically in the yichud room. He's one-on-one with the creator of the world. What greater closeness can a person ever have? You could talk to him. You say, Ata, you. Speak to him in not even third person. Yeah, you, I'm talking to you. You're talking to Hashem, and you bring your phone. You bring your phone and it's in your pocket, maybe it's on vibrate, but it rings once, twice. There's the phantom ring also. You think it's ringing. Some people even pick up, so I'll call you right back. What's the difference between that and being alone in the yichud room with your husband, with your kala? But we don't see it exactly like that. We don't appreciate the greatness, the kedusha, the opportunity, the holiness that we could experience on a day-to-day basis. In the olden days, forget about how certain people would dress. I'm talking about not even Jewish. The level of tznius, of proper way of dressing, was everywhere. But there was a show, before anyone's time here, I Love Lucy was called. They would never even picture her on the same bed, sitting far apart from her husband on the same bed. It never was shown on public television because it was understood that that's inappropriate. How far has the whole world gone from that? Certain sensitivities, the idea of kedusha, of holiness, nowadays, if you don't post the present that you got for your wife for her anniversary online to let the whole world find out about it, it didn't happen. What happened to kedusha, to holiness, to privacy? Yeah, no one's going to know. It's just between me and my wife. Certain ways of dressing, certain ways of speaking, certain ways of acting. We're just disconnected from it. We don't feel it. We don't appreciate it. There are people who can't appreciate that women or men would like to be in a bathroom by themselves with just women or just men. Everyone understood that. A few years ago, everyone understood that. That they just want to be there, and they want to, not everyone looking around at them while they're fixing their hair or doing something or whatever it is. There were certain basic values that existed, and people are pushing away from that, and it's strong. We're disconnected. We're disconnected from basic ways of life. And that's what the Churban Habayis is about. The more that we disconnected between us and Hashem, us and other people, us and ourselves, us and our true values of what is holiness, the whole Beis HaMikdash fell apart. We're not mourning the beautiful building that we could have seen. Yeah, we're excited to see it one day and can only imagine what it looks like, and it will be very exciting. But that's not what it's going to be exciting. That's not the main part. It's going to be the holiness that's oozing out of it, that's spreading over to the whole world. It's values that we live with. It's us striving to be more holy, to be more sensitive, to understand more what's right, and to always grow in that way. The opposite, you take the letters chet, resh, bet, cherev, a sword, which again means to only separate. You scramble those letters, you have chet, bet, resh, a chaver, a friend, chibur, connecting. That's the opposite. You have two things that are there. You go ahead, you bring it back together. Not friends the way it's said over nowadays. How many friends do you have on social media, etc.? A real friend. A friend that you'll borrow money so you could go to his wedding. That you'll take care of no matter what. That you worry about. If you didn't see one day, you call, where were you today? We missed you. That if he's sick, you bring him food. Real chaver, chibur. A real connection. How many real friends do we have? And if we don't have, we have to make more. Real friends. Very, very strong friends. The Gemara says in Maseches Brachos that whoever is misameach, a chassan and a kala, you bring happiness to a bride and a groom. It's as if you rebuilt one of the destroyed parts of Yerushalayim. Why? Because the two people coming together, a holy marriage, special marriage. It's two scattered people. Yeah, they're independent, they're whole, they're not demolished. They're whole. But they come together to be one. They become even stronger, bigger, they become unified. That's exactly what rebuilding the Beis HaMikdash is all about. Anytime we connect to anything, to Hashem, to others, to ourselves, in a real way, so then we're rebuilding the Beis HaMikdash. The Pasuk says in Amos 9:11, we say it in benching on Sukkot, that Vayomahu Hashem, on that day when Hashem redeems us, Hashem will rebuild the Sukkos Dovid Hanofales, the Sukkah of Dovid that fell. Some of the Rishonim, the Marikra, explains in Amos that that's referring to the Beis HaMikdash. Why is the Beis HaMikdash referred to a Sukkah? So the Maharal writes in Netzach Yisrael, Perek Lamed Hey, he says because there's a difference between a sukkah and a building that falls down. When a building falls down and you rebuild it, you basically made it all anew. It wasn't there, it was gone. You built a new building. But when a sukkah falls down, it collapses, what do you say? I put my sukkah up. I picked it up, reassembled. It's all the pieces were there already. Some of that was probably still attached, just collapsed. You just easily pick it up. And that's what we have to do. The Beis HaMikdash, the pieces are there. It wasn't demolished. It's all there. It's just that we have to go ahead and we have to connect. We have to connect to every single thing in the world that's real. Hashem, others, and to ourselves. We have to understand, we have to appreciate what the real values are, what's important, what's not important. We shouldn't get upset. We shouldn't care about it. It shouldn't bother us. It's not important. And the more that we connect, the more that we're able to rebuild that spiritual Beis HaMikdash, and we'll be zocha from there to the physical Beis HaMikdash down here as well. The first Kina that we're going to start off with, Kina number 1, starts with the word Zechor Hashem Mehaya Lanu, is one pasuk after the other from the 5th parak of Eicha. But we add in, Ay Mehaya Lanu, what was it like? What was it like? In the olden days, there was these values. People had their head on straight. They understood what it was, and we lost that all. Ay Mehaya Lanu. That's how we say this Kina, and we conclude with the last pasuk in Eicha, Shivenu Hashem Yelecha v'Nashuva Chadei Shemeinu K'Kedem, that we want to come back. Hashem, return us. Let us come back. Let us come back to that value set, to those morals, to those understanding, and connect to Hashem in the greatest way.